Welcome to the One Player Podcast, the show on solitaire board games. I'm your host, Albert, and this is episode 353. I mean, 354.
I wonder what it is that we're reviewing today, because I had it scheduled wrong.
Hi, Julius.
Hello, Albert.
How are you?
I'm doing quite well, but apparently our calendar is off. That's oops.
Well, yeah. It's because, Well, we missed recording last week because I think, you know what, Julius? I think we have to come to terms that we're not a weekly show anymore.
No, we're trying to be weekly show.
We try to be weekly, but I mean, honestly, I think we've been averaging bi-weekly lately. And, that's just the way it is. And so the game that we're going to talk about last week, excuse me, losing my voice. The game that we're going to talk about last week, we're talking about this week. So this week's game is next week. And that was Julius's confusion. Or the notes confusion, actually. Sorry. Anyway, did you know I'm having a hurricane coming my way, by the way?
Is it bringing in a pandemic or is it bringing in a deck of wonders? It's
bringing in a deck of wonders. But tonight, starting, I don't know, like midnight or so, it's going to start getting rainier and windier. By 5 a.m., it's supposed to start getting really bad with like up to 30 mile an hour winds with up to 70 or 60
I legit thought you were making a joke about the game.
No, serious. We're getting a real storm. Okay. Hurricane Helene. It won't be a hurricane by the time it gets here, but yeah, it's supposed to be a really bad one.
Well, shall we talk about the game, or are you just giving me time to be able to read about it?
A little bit of both, because I'm going to leave all this in. Because it doesn't matter, because when you hear this, it'll be over. And if you do hear it, it means that everything was fine and we survived. Because I won't be publishing this until after the hurricane.
Oh, right. I remember all about this game now. And I remember all my opinions on it.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
I have opinions on this.
Well, and that's perfect, because I was ready to start talking more about the game now that we did the intro and talked about the weather.
Let's get into it, Albert.
All right, so Deck of Wonders. This is a solitaire card game inspired by Magic the Gathering. It's the game's been on the show before because we had a preview for it the first time it was on Kickstarter, and I've been wanting to talk about this game for months and months and months. Honestly, it's been on my list, and finally the time came up for it. And lo and behold, there happens to be another Kickstarter for expansions coming up, and I think it starts right around the time this episode releases. So you'll be able to hear this and say, "Hey, this sounds like something I want," or "Hey, this sounds like something I don't want." So I think it's a nice. It may work out as a nice timing, or maybe it won't matter. I don't know. Anyway, this is Deck of Wonders. It's a small little game. It comes in a little box. Honestly, it is like imagine a deck of Magic cards. It's probably like a box with 6 decks. That's how big it is. I don't know why I'm giving this example because that's dumb, but there you go. It's a small game. In it, you're playing a campaign against 3 different villains. You have gotten the Deck of Wonders from Fate, and all these villains now kind of want to get it from you for whatever reason they have. And so there's a bit of a story that goes with this game. It's a little bit of a campaign. It's a little bit of a legacy to it. But ultimately, it's just a Magic the Gathering style game. Components? Let's talk about components. Okay, so it comes in a nice sturdy box. It looks like it's decorated to look like a box that holds a Deck of Wonders inside. Sort of, it's like magical and there's a little lock in it and whatnot. There's a bunch of cards, lots of cards actually. It's pretty packed. There's 91 core cards, player cards, 33 villain cards times 3 because there's 3 villains. Each villain has their own deck of cards. There's 9 legacy packs. And then there's a sticker sheet. So you could do your upgrades for the legacy stuff. And then there's the rulebook. Besides that, it also brought a tuck box so you could take the game with you, that sort of thing. So you could bring your current deck that you're playing with. That is basically all the components right there. Not a whole lot to it. The cards, all the art, it's interesting because it's a solo game. So the way it's going to work is you're using a single deck and you're drawing cards from that deck for yourself and for the enemy. The cards are double sided. So if you're drawing it from yourself, you draw it face up. If you draw it for the enemy, you flip it over, and it's the same card with another image and its text of what the enemy does using that card. So you and the enemy are playing the same card, but each of it you have slightly different effects. The art of the cards. So both sides, the art tends to be similar. Like if the card is a troll, they're both pictures of the troll. Your troll looks a little nicer than the enemy's troll. Maybe he looks a little more vicious or more untrustworthy. And so that's a neat idea and a neat effect. The art style
And I
is
will say that that effect reminds me very much, as soon as I saw that, about Kingdom Legacy, or perhaps Kingdom Legacy might have
yeah,
this one because it came first. But it's the same type of idea where there's like a remix to the art based upon whether it's on the good side or the bad side.
yeah, yeah. This one, I think Kingdom Legacy, there's more variety. This one, it's very much the same thing when you flip it over. If you have a fairy dog, when you flip it over, it's the same fairy dog in a different pose generally. The the art, as I was saying, it's all pastel and it worked fine. It's a nice art style, but I find it a little hard to appreciate the art as much with it. I don't know why, but when I look at it, I tend to not want to look at the art as much. It's not, I don't think it's badly done. It's just I don't know, it doesn't work for me, which I think is a shame. Um, so I said there's three villains. Each villain has different deck and different powers. Likewise, there's three sets of player cards. Your 90, I don't know why it's 91 exactly, but your 91 cards are kind of lined up with the villain card. So there's, I think, blue, green, and pink maybe were the colors. I don't remember exactly, but it doesn't matter. Um, the blue villain, generally you'd play with the blue cards and you'd line them up the same pink and pink, red with red, green with green, whatever colors they are. You don't have to necessarily. You do at first, but that can change. And we'll get more into that a little bit. The what else is there? The the legacy packs are nice little sturdy packs and they're sealed. When you open them, you'll get more cards. They do different things. And the stickers are stickers. I'm not a fan of the stickers. I don't find them super functional when you well, first of all, I'm not a fan of stickering games because to me that kind of limits the replayability. But the stickers have a little icon on them and I find them a little hard to interpret what that icon means. So I have to refer back to the rule books often to see what my sticker does. So
I
it
will
could
say
be
I
better.
noted that the rulebook does say that you can, write down your upgrades if you don't want to stick to the cards.
Yeah, you could do that, right? And then have to sleeve the cards or something, or say this, right? But that's more work than I want to do too. So, and if you're playing it, I think if you're playing on Saturday, you don't have that option either, right? You could sticker them on a
Oh yeah, that's
Saturday.
true. No, can't
So yeah,
stick on a Saturday.
you can't sticker on a Saturday either.
Nope.
So you can't legacy it.
There's no legacy on Saturday. That's right.
Okay. All right. So that is my on the components. What do you think, Julius?
I will say I noted for the icons that they're kind of weird. Mostly because one of them stood out. There's +1 player draw, which looks like a card +1, but then there's an up arrow for -1 cost. And I get that the whole point is that it's upgrading the card, but maybe stop using upgrades with a minus because that just gets confusing.
Oh, you know what? You've just answered a question for me that had confounded me. That's not an up arrow because it's upgrading. That's pointing to the player's half of the card, and the down arrow pointing to the villain's half of the card.
Ah, see, I didn't get that
That
just from
was
reading
not
the rulebook.
explained in the rule book at all. See, that's one of the things with the stickers. It doesn't really explain them very well. And I get that more into that later too.
Okay.
That wow. Okay, thank you, Julius.
But
That
yeah,
does
I
help a
mean,
tiny bit.
in terms of components and in terms of the rules for it, I thought it looked fine. I think that the art style it's very pastelly. I think
Yeah,
it
yeah.
doesn't have any seriousness to it. It looks like a younger kid's cartoon. Um, which often when you have that level of art, I would be expecting the game to skew a bit younger than it does, but I don't think it does. But other than that, I don't have any other particular comments.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a bad art style. I just don't love it. It reminds me actually of in Magic the Gathering. I don't know. It's been years since I played, but there used to be an artist, Phil Foglio and Kaja Foglio were their names. I actually still remember that. It kind of reminds me of their art style. I remember cards of theirs that were similar, like Scheherazade and some of the others. So yeah, that's the components. Rule book. Already talked about the rule book. I think it's clear. It's a simple rule book to read. For the most part, it's fine. Like I said, there's a couple of things that I are not necessarily answered, and I kind of wish they were. Um, but it's a simple game to play, so it's not hard to explain. All right. Therefore, gameplay. When you're gonna play it, you're gonna pick a villain. When you start the game, you only have one choice because it's a legacy campaign kind of game. It tells you which villain to pick, and it says you could pick from any of your player cards plus the villain cards to make a deck of. I guess it's 60 cards because I think there's 32 villain cards and 28 player cards that you put into the deck. I never actually counted how many, but it's around 60. It tells you, pick the first villain that's green, and pick all the matching cards of player cards that are green, and combine them to make a deck. Shuffle that and start playing. You can, if you wanted to, instead is you had 93 cards and the three player cards in the different colors. You could pick from any of those and put them into your deck, but that you kind of want to save until you played a little bit, because that's part of the deck construction aspects of the game that come in. So you're gonna pick your villain, Cullen, build the deck, and play the game. The way you play is you draw 4 cards, and then you can play a number of them onto the table. As long as you have cards in your hand, you could always play them. There isn't any restriction of 1 per turn or anything. Some cards have a cost where you have to discard. If so, then that would limit how many you play. Sometimes when you play a card, it might reward you with another card draw. You just do whatever the card says. Some of the cards are instant effects. Some of the cards are creatures that you play out in front of you. Creatures will be able to attack your enemy or your enemy's creatures. However, like in Magic the Gathering, when the creatures show up, they're a little bit dizzy and confused, I guess, so they can't attack that first round. All they could do is defend. That was your first turn. You do the 4 cards. You took your first turn, played any card you wanted to. Then the villain goes to the setup. He draws 3 cards, one at a time, and plays them face up in order. Or I'm sorry, face down, because you have to flip it over to see the villain's end. And if it's an enemy, you put it in play. If it's not an enemy, you do whatever it says. If for whatever reason you can't play it, it just gets discarded and you got lucky. After that, every turn, each side draws 1 card and takes their turn as normal. So that first turn was the only time anybody got extra cards. And you start basically with 1 card more than your enemy because you got 4 and he got 3. Or they got 3. The combat, the way it works is, again, similar to Magic, is that each creature has an attack and a defense. If you block with a creature, you compare your creature's attack against the other person's defense and vice versa, and any creatures that took too much damage die. So it's pretty simple that way. However, unlike Magic, you can choose whether you're attacking the creature or an enemy, or the enemy. And I didn't mention, like in Magic, the goal of the game is to defeat your enemy and get him down to 0 health. That's basically the whole gameplay. You're going to take your turn, you play your cards, attack if you can, either damage your enemy or damage his creatures, and then the enemy, the AI, will do the same thing. Draw a card. They always play the card. They never keep it in a hand. And then they will attack you. The enemy, of course, cheats, because that's the way of solo games, isn't it? Your enemy's creatures can always attack the time they came in. They're ready. Yours have to wait a turn. And I hate that about it, but I mean, I don't really, but that's just how it works. That is the basic gameplay, I think. Is there anything else that I'm missing, Julius? Do you remember? I don't think you've played this one in a while.
I haven't played it, but I looked into it. Let me ask a question or two. So at the beginning, you pull out 4 cards and you play those 4 cards, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at that point in time, every turn, you draw a card, you play a card, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you don't really maintain a hand.
You don't have to play cards. You can hold a hand. You could choose to hold cards for later. And you'll want to, because some cards, for example, say discard a card to play this one. And if you don't have a hand, if you played all your cards, well, you can't play this one. Now you're stuck holding it until the next round when you have a card. There's one creature, the troll, requires you to discard 2. So you'd have to keep cards in your hand.
But then you miss out on a turn. So essentially, you're just sacrificing the potential of that card that's in your hand for a turn hoping that something would come
Yes.
out. Like, why not just play the card you've got? And if something comes out that needs you to discard cards, hold it until you choose to play it later.
So I will give you a little bit of a spoiler. I was playing that way, and I figured out eventually that with the first villain, I never play a card in the first round. Most of the time, because of the cards in the deck, a lot of times I play cards and have all these creatures ready, and they would always die immediately. And I found that if I saved them for a round, I was able to react to him much better. A lot of the cards he ended up playing ended up fizzling and doing nothing because they're targeting my creatures. And his whole entire first hand got wasted, and I've got 4 cards, and he's got nothing.
Interesting.
So
But there's not
there is strategies to it. It depends. That's not true with every villains. What I have found, I tried it with the second villain, and yeah, that didn't work.
there's
At
not
all.
like a mana cost or anything like that.
Mm-mm. The only cost is always discarding from your hand.
Uh-huh. And that's just a
At least so far.
sometimes cost.
Some cards have it, some don't. I think at least at first, most don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's just the clarification I wanted to make sure I had correct.
Yeah, because right, it sounds like you should just play everything at the beginning. And the rules even say, sometimes you're going to want to keep cards in your hand. It doesn't go into more detail than that. It says you don't always want to play everything at the beginning, and
Yeah.
you figure out why quick enough because it makes a difference.
Okay.
Um, that's really the basic rules of the whole game. Keep playing back and forth until you've reduced your enemy to 0 health. Each enemy has different rules. Each enemy has 3 legacy packs, and when you play, you set up it says set up the legacy packs, in the player with everything else. You don't have to because you could just leave them in the box. But they all get triggered different ways. One of the legacy packs for the first villain, what does it say? You open the pack if you defeat the villain and you still have more than 10 health left. So if you do that, you get to open that first pack. Actually, I think I actually completed that with my first game even, so that was kind of easy. And I said, you know what, I'm not going to count it. I'll try it again. And after that, I had a struggle trying to get there again. So it might have been the first game I made enough mistakes. The second pack for the villain says if you have 2 forest trolls ready at the same time, then you unlock this pack. So you don't even have to win or lose the game. You just have to have the 2 trolls, and that triggers it immediately. So it's different for each villain and each pack. And they'll have entirely different goals to unlock those legacy packs. Generally speaking, the legacy packs give you more story for that villain and will probably give you some new rules for the villain, and will, so far, I haven't done all of it, will definitely give you new player cards that you could then use to build your next deck. If you win the game, then those little legacy sticker sheet, you could put a legacy sticker on one of the cards. Not every card qualifies it. I haven't really looked at the whole deck super carefully, but it looks like it's one of each type of card. For example, the trolls, there's I think 5 trolls in your deck. One of them will have a spot for the sticker. The other 4 don't. So you could pick any sticker that you have from the sheet. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different effects that you could do. 28 stickers total, so 4 stickers per type. You could pick any sticker and put in any of your cards that you have available in your pool, not necessarily one that you played with this game. And you sticker it up. There are more cards that can have stickers than there are stickers, so you kind of got to think about, do I really want to use a sticker now? Because I may use them all up. Do I know which sticker I want to put on the card? So I think that choice takes a little while to figure out. I have not been stickering that often, because I'm not sure what I want to do, and also I'm finding that it doesn't come up
the
that
challenge
often.
of a limited choice.
Yes, it is. Yeah, that is true. It's like I don't know which one and where. I'm gonna save it just in case. But you made me lose my train of thought. The stickers are not always clear, so I'm not even sure always how they work. I think you answered one of my questions today. Like some of the cards say, like for example, +1 player health. When does that happen? Does it happen anytime the card is drawn, or does it only happen if I draw the card on my turn? Like if the enemy draws the card, do I still get a +1 player health? The rules don't explain that whatsoever, so I don't know. I've chosen to err on the side of benefiting me, but it doesn't matter because these haven't been coming up that much so far. I've only got 1, 2, 3, 4 stickers in a deck of 60 cards. The games aren't that long; they last 10 or 15 minutes, so chances are I'll see one or two stickers at most.
Yeah, that's a really short game.
Yeah, and half the time I miss the sticker. It's like I finish the game and I'm putting my cards back. So, oh, look, I discarded 3 cards with a sticker. Huh? Look at that. Who knew? So, I have. I think it's because of where the sticker is. I kind of wish it was in a better spot, the top of the corner of the card or something, not the middle on the right side. Because it's on the right side, I don't see it as much. The way I hold my cards in my hand, I tend to see the left half, especially the tops of the cards more. So yeah, so winning the game, you have the choice of putting the sticker, and that helps you in the future. Once you defeat your Cullen and have unlocked the first 2 packs, the third pack unlocks once you win a game with both of those unlocked. At that point, you could open the third pack and add it. And oh, surprise! This one's going to make the game harder. It is his final form. If you play through that and you beat him in his final form, you have now unlocked the next villain. And not only that, but all his cards, all the green cards at this point are now available for you to build your deck with when you're going to play. So the next villain is the pink one. You could use her villain cards and any of the green or pink cards that are available to you, which is all the green cards and many of the pink ones. So then you start doing your deck construction. Play a couple games, see how that goes, try and decide what you want to tweak. I find that an interesting part of the game. I like that kind of playing through it and figuring out what's good about the deck or what's bad, and then tweaking things. Deck construction in general. That's just one of the things why I like the Lord of the Rings card game. I think that is it for all the rules, really. It's like I said, it's simple enough. There's some things that aren't clear, and I kind of wish were a little clearer. I'm not the kind of person that goes and look for a fact. There may be a fact online. I will check BGG for questions, but that's about it. Any comments, Julius, at this point? Any
Well,
questions
you
about
basically
the
gone through
game?
the gameplay at this point, right?
Yes.
So I think we're kind of approaching final thoughts.
Yes, that's right.
And I'm happy to give my final thoughts and maybe let you respond to it, because mine are just
Sure.
based on reading through the rules and my assumptions from reading through the Kickstarter and things like that. But essentially, my concern was, and this may be a tired statement from me, I really enjoy games where there's a lot of decision point for it that make you feel smart when you're playing through it.
Hmm.
And this one did not strike me as one where there's a heavy, strong decision point. I draw a card, and my decision is, do I play it or do I not? And it felt like, to me, just looking through it, almost always was, yes, I'm going to play it because it does a thing. And that is such a narrow amount of decision that it just didn't appear interesting to me. You're citing this to be sort of like Magic the Gathering. There's a very important aspect of Magic the Gathering and almost any other card game that I know of, which is a resource. There is not really a resource that you're trading with. Whether it's games where your resources are on your cards, like the Marvel game, whatever it is, the Fantasy Flight
Hmm.
Marvel game, where the resource of the card, you have to discard other cards to it, so you get a hand of cards every time. Or whether you're getting resources, or you're getting mana by killing them. There's so many other games that are a just card game, but they almost always have a resource that you have to spend, even if it's action points and you have a limited number of action points that you get. There's a resource that you're spending, and this one, there is no resource. It's just draw a card, play a card, draw a card, play a card. And even you said that you can maybe save a card because some cards say that as a cost you have to discard a card. There's at that point in time a very limited amount. So let's say I decided I was going to hold one this time. Well, next time assuming I draw that one next time, I'll play it and I'll discard this one. And then I still don't have a lot of choices, just I get to play next time. And theoretically, I want to play those pop cards. I'll play them as soon as I can by holding on the other card. It doesn't feel to me like there is a strong decision point that gets you involved in the game, that makes you enjoy playing the game. And so that's why I have personally passed on this one. But I would certainly be interested in hearing your response to that because you've played the game.
Yes. Yeah. So there's 2 parts to it. So first, the currency. There is a currency. It's a discarding, but there's not a lot of cards that have that cost, and the cost tends to be pretty low for the cards that do. That works out okay because your hand is so small. Um, right. So most of the cards end up being free. You could just play it, at least with a first villain. Little bit I think about the same with the second. I haven't tried the third one yet. I've gotten through the first two. I'm ready to play. Am I ready to play this third one? Did I finish the second one already? No, I have not unlocked the last pack for the second one yet. So I still. Oh wait, hang on a second here. Let's look at this because I'm reading this wrong. I did. I did unlock both the packs for the first two, all three packs for the first two villains, and defeat their final form. So I am now ready for that final villain. I have not started that yet. It's been about 25 games. So anyway, there is some currency. It's very tight though. Your hand is never big, so the costs never get very high, but it does feel like a bit of a currency. Some of those legacy stickers help reduce the cost, so it does make the currency less. Um, in terms of decision point, I think to some extent you're definitely right. Sometimes it feels pretty obvious what to do. Um, Often I have no choice. My enemy, the AI, has all these cards out, and I have to respond with a card from my hand because if I don't, I'll get defeated. And oh look, I only got one creature in my hand because they keep dying. So my only choice is to play it and watch it die. Because if not, I'm going to die really quick. So it does feel sometimes like the choices are pretty limited, and that is frustrating. That's not always the case. There are definitely cards that give me a choice as I'm playing, and they tend to be interesting choices when that does come up. The game is short though, so I'm finding where the decision points come in is really after having played a couple games now, trying to think about, oh gosh, this isn't really working. What cards am I finding isn't right for this game? What do I need to change out specifically so I can meet the goal of unlocking the pack, or the goal of beating the villain, whichever goal I'm trying to go for at the time. In some depending on the villain, some cards help and some cards hinder. Also, as I start unlocking cards, there's some cards that work in tandem with other cards. So you do get some synergy, and that adds to the choice. I definitely don't find it say as deep as Magic the Gathering, but that this game also has a much more limited card pool than that. The Okay, how's that for an answer? Final thoughts.
I've given my final
The
thoughts.
the So there's things I like and things I don't like. I like the fast gameplay. I like being able to tweak and play with the deck and adjust it and all that. I'm finding that very fun. I like the challenges to unlock the new packs. Um, Trying to beat the villain with a specific goal in mind. Oh, it's like I gotta the second villain. There's something, and this is not a spoiler because these are all in the packs on the outside of the little packages, and you could look at all of the packages. Um, I have to defeat the villain, get her down to 1 health, and then let her she heals at the end of every round. Let her heal back up to full health or to 10 health. If I get her down to one exactly, then I unlock that pack. And there's different things like that. Defeat her without actually attacking her. That's also a little tricky. She has to do damage to herself, which can happen in that deck. So I find those challenges really interesting, really fun, and I've enjoyed going through this game. I've played 3 or 4 games each sitting easily, and had fun through it. I don't like the double sided card so much. I think it's cool. It's a little bit of a gimmick, but what I don't like about it is that the cards tend to be very similar both ways. So it feels very like it locks up against itself. It feels like there's not much variety because of that. Every troll he gets is just exactly as powerful as my troll, and that ends up being frustrating. It's like I feel like there's no way to work around things sometimes. Like just I'm stuck, and my only chance is just to try and last out the combat. I kind of wish the cards were a little more asymmetrical, and they are somewhat asymmetrical. They have to be because you have different things that the enemy does. I didn't talk about it, but you have initiative, and you put your cards in a certain order. The enemy's order is whichever order you want to set them up in from the beginning. Um, and who the enemy is able to attack matters when that happens. There is agency in that. When you play an enemy card, I think you could put them in any order you want. They always attack your first card to kill it if they can. If they could do enough damage to kill your first enemy, that's what they will do. If they can't, they will attack you directly instead. So you could set it up so that they're forced to attack your first guy, and maybe waste 10 points of damage on a 3-point guy or something like that, and everybody else is perfectly fine. And maybe even killed a couple guys in the process. That's a little bit of an extreme example, but you could play the game that way. You could your enemy your not enemies your creatures have to go in order, numeric order in terms of their initiative. But if two creatures have the same initiative, then you choose which is first and which is second, and you could play that to your advantage, so that the enemy is maybe attacking the one that they don't have enough health to kill, or maybe the one that if they attack they will die automatically too. That's a place where the game had more choices, and I should have thought about that before. That does add interesting choices. Um, what else do I have on here? I already mentioned the stickers were frustrating and hard because the rules are not clear about them and because they're hard to make out. So I don't like them. Using them helps, I guess, but I haven't seen a whole lot of effect out from them. So I've only used 4. I've won definitely more than 4 games at this point. I like that challenge of unlocking the cards a lot, which is it's really fun, and the different expansions or scenario packs or whatever. But they're limited, there's only 3 per villain, there's only 3 villains, so I got 9 packs to unlock. Once I've done that, I think I'm going to start getting a little bit bored by the game. All I could do now is pick a villain and play it, and try and beat it or not. And I love all those extra challenges, and that missing is going to suddenly make me lose a little bit of interest in the game. That being said, I'm going to have 30 plays easily before that happens. It's not that bad, honestly, for most games these days. At least for me, getting 30 plays out of a game is a lot. Granted, they're small plays. Though, if I'm going to take the game with me, say I'm going on a trip and I want to take this game in my bag just so I can have something to play later, this wouldn't be bad. Because you could take just one deck, let's say it's an afternoon trip, take one deck and try and play it and try and beat it. And see how that deck does against the villain, and then figure out, what would I need to change in this, what worked and what didn't work. There could be fun in that. But yeah, I do kind of worry once those challenges, those unlockable packs run out. Gosh, I don't know. I think I've given a lot of thoughts on it. I don't remember any others offhand. Looking at my notes, they're written down, but I don't see anything different. Really, this game, I think.
Are you wondering if you've covered it all?
I was wondering that. I think this game shines with the deck construction. I think that's what makes it interesting. Trying to find the right deck combination to beat this challenge that you're trying to meet. And I think that's what's really fun about this game. It's not too expensive. I don't remember how much it was. I'm guessing 25. I believe it is currently out of print, but they are doing a Kickstarter. I mentioned at the top of the show, I believe. Just happens to be going live around the same time that this episode is coming out. There is going to be I think he's planning for a limited number of base games because he tried the Kickstarter recently and it wasn't meeting the expectations because he was expecting a lot of people to buy the base game and some people to get the expansion. And it seems that everybody that was backing it were people that already had the base game and just wanted the expansion. So it wasn't going to meet its funding goal based on the way he had designed it or built in the expectations into the campaign. So the new one, I think, is going to have more expansion, less base game available, unless a lot of people order those. I'm sure he'll print however many get ordered or something. I don't know. I have no idea how that works. Actually, I think he said they are available now, so it hasn't sold out. So he's not planning on reprinting the base game right now. So it will be limited availability. Again, unless a ton of people wanted it all of a sudden after they did it the last time. The expansion only, I believe, is about $15, not very much. I don't know exactly what it adds. I tend not to look closely at Kickstarters. I believe it adds a new villain and more cards for that villain and more player cards for that villain. Other than that, I don't know. Do your own research, people. Oh, wait. That's why you have a podcast for, isn't it?
You'd think so.
Whoops. So there we go, Julius.
I guess you're just going to leave us wondering.
I guess. Yeah, Thank you, everyone.
Wonder of wonders, Albert. Miracle of miracles.
All right. Next time, maybe next week, may not. Depends on my hurricane.
We'll do it. You'll be fine. The storm. The storm shall wander away.
Yeah, that's right. uh, okay.
Have
Bye,
a
Julius.
wonderful night, Albert.
Wonderful. Oh, you're just enjoying it too much now.
Thanks for listening. We love feedback, so we love hearing from you. You can reach me at julius@oneplayerpodcast.com or JLBird on BGG, and Albert can be reached at albert@oneplayerpodcast.com or Fractalune on BGG. Our website is oneplayerpodcast.com with the number 1, and we're also on Twitter at oneplayerpodcast. The intro music is copyright Angus, can be found at jamendo.com. The transition music is copyright by Dan Elduce Pancaldi, whose page is at donpancaldi.com. The One Player Podcast is protected under a Creative Commons share-alike license. Thanks for listening.